Over all this with our experts, and let me start with the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers. You spent your entire career handling classified information with the FBI and then also in Congress. What did you think when you read this whistleblower complaint? What did you make of it and how significant it is?
Well, the fact that the IG did a preliminary review and found it credible, despite the fact that there was some concern up front that there could be some political bias, right? So that would normally slow things down if there were some thought that this is getting even. I didn't like my boss because he fired me. I have some political bias because I don't like my boss's politics. So that is a real thing that they have to determine in the sense of this. So the IG inspector got through that piece of it. Now, they'll have to investigate that part to make sure that all of the other facts are true, but it's a pretty damning document. I will say, as someone who handled whistleblower complaints, I'm surprised that they released it in the form that they did. I saw clues as I read it as to who may be involved in having this kind of an access to information. I hope they checked with this individual and the IG before they released this report, because I'll guarantee you in this town, everybody and their brother is trying to put these clues together to figure out who this person is, and they deserved, I think, to be anonymous up in this process until it goes through its full investigation. But I will say, pretty damning, I think.
You know, and as a non-intelligence consumer, one thing that really jumped out on the first day was reading the account of the whistleblower of the call, which we were told that the whistleblower did not have access to the call. The account of it in the complaint is incredibly on target with what was actually revealed in
the rough transcript.
The rough transcript. Yeah. And so it certainly, I think it establishes a baseline of credibility here, because this person, they described that call to a T. And thus the other accusations in here, that they withheld a meeting, that they pulled back Pence, that there was a widespread understanding in the administration that the only way Zelensky was going to get a meeting was if he played ball on the Biden investigation. I think the one thing we can compare on this, it comes out pretty well, and it gives a certain amount of credibility to whatever else is in there.
And can I just say this? This is clear to me that this is not somebody who was in office gossip who heard this, who wrote it down. This is somebody who was in the chain of being able to legitimately get intelligence surrounding these calls, including the fact that they were read out on one of these calls, tells me it's somebody in that chain. So that, if I'm looking at this from an investigative, I'm thinking that person is of value, and I'm going to guess that's why the IG came out and said this person's, despite other things, this person is credible to these allegations.
And the whistleblower just lays it out there. It says, quote, "I have received information from multiple U.S. government officials that the President of the United States is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 U.S. election." A pretty stunning accusation.
Yeah, it's stunning. You know, we've been talking about this for a couple of days now, but anytime I digest this information or read it, it's always shocking. It's always stunning, especially given the fact that we just went through the Mueller report, all sorts of accusations leveled at this president about involvement with a foreign government with the 2016 election. And then we fast forward to now and over the last couple of months with these meetings and these calls that he was having that we have the readout of. Here he was doing exactly what people were accusing him of doing in 2016, leveraging the power of the White House and soliciting help from a foreign government to meddle in the 2020 election. Going forward, what does this mean? It looks like if you're a Democrat, you're on the road to impeachment. We saw sort of not quite an impeachment hearing, the beginning of it, but that's what's going to happen over these next couple of weeks. We'll see what Republicans do. They didn't put up much of a defense of the president. No one is coming out and saying the president would never do something like this. The president loves this country. He would never put his own interests above this country. There's sort of crickets on that end, and the president essentially saying, yes, he did it, at least this phone call, and so what?
And the response from Republicans, as Nia points out, is really fascinating. On Capitol Hill today, the Republicans basically just were attacking the Democrats.
Right.
And that was it. It wasn't, as Nia points out, they weren't saying, President Trump, you're misconstruing what the transcript says, or this is the more innocent explanation. It's just Democrats, this is a joke, they're horrible people. And really kind of crickets from the White House, no real denials about the essential allegation, which is proven and has been spoken out loud by President Trump and Rudy Giuliani. Yes, we were pushing the Ukrainians to investigate Joe Biden and his son.
That's exactly right. And I think watching the Republicans today, it was clear they didn't know what to say. I mean, they went to kind of a knee-jerk place in this hearing, attack the Democrats, as you said. No one is denying the details and facts of this. It would be hard to do that, given how damning, as Mike Rogers said, the whistleblower complaint is. But we also have, this is very different in a lot of ways, but than the discussion we've been having about the Mueller report for years, because there are Trump's own words that we are looking at in the notes of this call. This is current. We're talking about a threat to the 2020 election, which is happening right now. So this is a lot more challenging, I think, politically. Well, national security purposes, certainly, but also politically for Republicans to kind of
But it is worth noting
stay away from.
Some of the Senate Republicans basically have dismissed it as, a nothing burger, and that there is no issue here. And I think that the investigation that will kind of fill out some of the other points that the whistleblower raises, particularly this idea that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is not getting the meeting he wants until it is clear that he is playing ball. It's going to be awful hard. If there's strong evidence for that, how do you then turn around and say that the president is not, in fact, exactly?
But where I do think they'll go is say, listen, it's all subject to interpretation. There is no slam dunk here. It's subject to interpretation. This was one person's interpretation. We're going to put together our interpretation, and now it's a he said, she said. If the administration get to a he said, she said, I don't think you can impeach. Honestly,
Right.
I just don't think you can.
Except, of course, the whistleblower was talking to administration officials who. That's where he got the
I'm saying
that's their
where
defense. Exactly.
if I were them, that's where
That's
I
what I
would
would
go.
do.
I don't
As
know if
opposed
they
to
have
just-
anywhere else.
I think we would both say
we have to take a
he-
quick break. We have to take. We'll come back, continue this exact conversation. Former